Hello YouTube, Millennium X17 here, and today we have a unique test video that I haven't done in quite some time now. I'm going to be testing some new guitar gear that I've just acquired. It is the Dr. Z air brake attenuator for tube amps. Now, it's an interesting thing that I've had a tube amp for 4 years now, and I really haven't been able to use it in my bedroom because tube amps are very loud. And that's the way they are by nature. But they sound best when you turn them all the way up. But of course, when you turn them all the way up, with other people and other things going on in the house, it's not very pleasant to have other people. In point of fact, with this tube amp that I have, my Carvin V3M, it's so loud that when it's turned up, I need like earplugs in because it's that loud, sitting only 3-4 feet away. So only recently I've just purchased the power attenuator known as the Dr. Z air brake, and in this video I'm going to be testing it. Now, to avoid talking excessively, I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. I have Ernie Ball power slinkies tuned to standard with my Schecter C1 Hellraiser. I'm going to be playing this through into a Digitech RP500 used solely as a noise gate, that into the amplifier, which is, as I said, the Carvin V3M, out of that into the Dr. Z air brake, out of that into a Carvin 2x12 cabinet, mic'd up in quotes, and I'll get to that as to why later, with the GLS Audio E57, something like that. It's a copy of a Shure 57 at a fraction of the price, too. So, the only other thing that I really need to say is that my elite shredding skills are not on display for this video. I don't even know if I have any. I probably don't. So if all you feel like doing is commenting how I need to practice more, I already know that. And if that's all that matters to you is good playing, you probably want to leave now, because it's, even though I do something really easy, which is E5, G5, A5, and then a 10, 11, 12 on the high E, a little squealy of back and forth, and then A5, G5, E5, I still somehow managed to screw something that simple up. And again, if that bothers you, leave now, because I already know I desperately need to practice more. I have thoughts on this, and I will get to those after the test video, which begins right now. And we are now back. Now, crappy playing aside, something that you probably noticed is that as I turned the attenuator up, it got very, very quiet. And the reason for that is the GLS Audio ES57 microphone I had mic'd up in a very unique, odd way. And that is the fact that the input that I have out of this XLR microphone goes into the MXL mic mate, which turns XLR into USB, which I can then go into my computer with. Now, the problem with this is that there is zero adjustability whatsoever. So, with the input volume on Audacity set as low as possible, miking this up properly, it still blew out the audio and clipped to hell and gone, which is astounding. So I had to mic this up about 4 feet away from the speaker and perpendicular, or at a right angle to the speaker itself. So the speaker is pushing audio this way and it's pointing this way, even though the audio is coming this way against it. The only way I could actually get this to work with my crappy, setup. It's a cheap setup. It's all I use. I use it every once in a while. I use this for podcasting. For that, it works great on my MXL 990. But for this, it's just, the tube amp is so loud that that's what happened. So I mic'd it up in a strange way. And the best way to show you that, in person, it's, the difference is huge in person. It's night and day. With it turned up fully, you don't need hearing protection. Even on level 4, you no longer need hearing protection. Bedroom level goes even further. All the way, it gets a little spongy. I back it off to about 80% is where I found that I like it the most. And as such, it lowers the volume level without having to turn down the amplifier, which means now I can actually use the clean channel as it's intended, where I can turn the volume down on the guitar and get a nice clean tone, and turn it up and get somewhat of a crunchier tone. It works nicely there. The little meter thingy that I had on my cell phone that you saw was an SPL meter, and would I take that as like a canon for what's actually being displayed? No. It's probably subpar due to the limitations of the microphone on my cell phone, but it's all I had as like a visual reference gauge, as well as the audio you're hearing. The best way I can actually show you as to how well that this attenuator works is to show you the actual audio track that Audacity recorded. If you look at it, when it's fully turned up, the audio track is huge. It's filling out the entire track as big as it can be. And then as I turn it down, it gets lower and lower and lower until you get to the highest bedroom level where it's very quiet. And then at the end there, when I started, just funkying around, turned it all the way back up and turned it all the way back down again, you could physically see the difference in volume level. And that's where an attenuator works best. What I will say for an attenuator is that it does not color the sound. I've heard a lot of reports that other ones do or don't, and maybe it's subtle or not. I myself don't hear any change in tone as per the coloration of the sound. Does it change how it sounds? Yes, and the reason for that is that you're not forcibly driving the speaker as aggressively. And ultimately, that does change the tone itself. And if that bothers you, then a power attenuator is not what you're looking for. I don't know the exact name of it, but what you're looking for is one of those enclosed speaker boxes that's soundproof, that has just one speaker in it and a microphone, and you actually plug in your house audio to that microphone. And I don't know what they're called, but I've seen them before. And that's what you're looking for if the change in tone by an attenuator bothers you to that extent. For me, it really doesn't, since I just screw around and noodle around in here in my bedroom. It works fantastically. And the last thing that I will say about a power attenuator is I've heard, in my research, looking as to what is a good price to performance attenuator, I looked at several different ones, and of course, all these, I come across horror stories of guys that have blown up their tube amps because, oh no, that's all the attenuators do is they blow up tube amps. I'm the last person to ask about matching impedance with, a speaker cabinet and all that, especially when you start getting into parallel and multiple cabinets. It's very confusing. Dr. Z on their website, through the PDF of this unit here, the air brake, says to match your speaker cabinet on your amplifier, which is what I would believe you should be doing. But ultimately, as it comes to pushing your tube amp, it's just like, the easiest example I know of is like a lawnmower engine. You start it up and you leave it idling. and you just leave it there, as long as it has gas, it's going to run for quite some time. Whereas if you turn on that same lawnmower engine and you redline it to its redline max, RPM, it's gonna, break sooner. And I think the same thing applies to tube amps. If you go straight to 11 because rock and roll and that whole 9 yards, you're pushing everything so much harder that it's going to stress the tubes more, it's going to stress the transformer more. It's going to break down sooner anyway. So if some guy once upon a time had a vintage 1983 JCM 800 that he got an attenuator and he turned it all the way up and oh my god, it blew up after a couple hours, stop and think about it. Okay, my amp is relatively still pretty new and it's a phenomenal amp. So I'm not as concerned with it. I will show the exact settings at some point. I will overlay a video of me showing the exact settings as it went through in the test. The master's at 6, the clean channel volume's at 10, and all the other volume channels which you did not see are at, I think, 5 or 6. I forget exactly where. Now that I have an attenuator, I should probably go back through and retweak all the settings so that I get a better sound now that I can now push both the preamp section and the main section of tubes and using the full, power and capability of the tube amp without deafening myself. For my money, the reason why there was a little check by the number 2 slot is because I bought this one on eBay for $130 less than stock, but even at its full price of $380 in the US, I think it works great. It's a piece of gear that I should have bought years ago. And as for what I do, just noodling around here in my bedroom, I think it's fantastic. So I give the Dr. Z Airbrake a huge thumbs up. I give my playing a thumbs down. I need to practice more. I'm out of practice badly. So there's that. And hey, until next time, guys, have yourselves a good day.